The massive obsidian throne room stretched across what felt like an entire city block, its walls adorned with the preserved remains of 1,000 conquered species. King Zarthul the Devourer sat upon his crystalline seat, his 6 eyes glowing, with malevolent satisfaction as he surveyed the tribute-bearers lined before him. Representatives from across the galaxy had come to pay homage to the most feared ruler in known space. The crystalline Veltar had brought entire moons of precious minerals. The warrior Krextani offered battle-tested weapons that could level star systems. The techno-organic synthoids presented computational matrices capable of predicting stellar collapse with perfect accuracy. Each delegation approached with trembling limbs, bowed heads, and offerings worth more than most civilizations' entire, gross planetary products. Each tribute was accepted with a dismissive wave of Zarthul's primary appendage, catalogued by his scribes, and filed away into his infinite vaults. Then came the human. Ambassador Sarah Chen walked forward with an easy stride, her hands empty, wearing nothing more elaborate than a simple blue diplomatic uniform. The assembled aliens gasped, some species producing sounds that had no equivalent in any known language. The audacity was breathtaking. Several delegates immediately began calculating the blast radius they'd need to avoid when Zarthul inevitably vaporized the insolent creature. "Human!" Zarthul's voice boomed through the chamber, each word causing the very air to vibrate with menace. "I have conquered 17 galaxies. I have consumed the life force of trillion-fold beings. My armies have reduced civilizations older than your sun to cosmic dust. Where is your tribute?" Sarah looked up at the towering alien monarch, completely unperturbed by the display of power. She cleared her throat and smiled. "Your Majesty, I've brought you something far more valuable than gold, more precious than technology, and rarer than the finest gems in the universe." The 6 eyes narrowed to burning slits. "Speak." "I've brought you a joke." The silence that followed was absolute. Not even the usual background hum of the palace's life support system seemed to dare make a sound. Several aliens began quietly calculating the fastest escape routes. Zarthul's voice dropped to a whisper that somehow carried perfectly throughout the vast chamber. Did you just offer me humor as tribute?" "Not just any humor," Sarah replied, her smile widening. "The best joke in human history. But there's a catch. Once you hear it, you'll understand why humans have survived every attempt to conquer us." The king leaned forward, his massive frame casting shadows that seemed to reach across dimensions. "You dare to bargain with me?" "I dare to offer you something you've never possessed in all your conquests," Sarah said, "the ability to truly laugh." Zarthul studied the small human for a long moment. In all his eons of conquest, no tribute-bearer had ever intrigued him quite like this. "Very well, human. Tell me this joke. But know that if I am not satisfied, I will ensure your death is particularly creative." Sarah nodded and took a breath. "Okay, so there's this alien overlord who's conquered most of the known universe, right? He's got everything, power, wealth, fear, respect, but he's absolutely miserable. So he goes to his advisor and says, 'I have everything, so why am I still unhappy?' The advisor thinks for a moment and says, 'Maybe you need a hobby.' So the overlord tries painting, but he keeps making everything black because that's his favorite color. He tries music, but every song sounds like a funeral dirge. Finally, he tries comedy. He goes to his first open mic night and gets on stage. He tells his best joke, waits for the laughter, and gets complete silence. The crowd is terrified. So you know what he does?" Zarthul found himself genuinely curious despite himself. "What?" He says, "Tough crowd. I guess I'll have to conquer a funnier galaxy." The silence stretched for exactly 3 seconds. Then something unprecedented happened in the court of Zarthul the Devourer. The king began to laugh. It started as a low rumble that seemed to emanate from somewhere deep within his massive chest. Then it grew, becoming a genuine chuckle. then escalating into full-bodied laughter that shook the very foundations of the palace. His 6 eyes began streaming with what could only be described as tears of mirth. The assembled delegates stared, in shock as the most feared being in the galaxy doubled over with laughter, slapping his throne's armrest and gasping for breath between guffaws. That is, Zarthul wheezed, trying to compose himself. That is terrible, it's awful, it's... Funny? Sarah suggested. Hilariously bad, Zarthul roared, setting off another wave of laughter. In all my existence, no one has ever dared to tell me something so magnificently ridiculous. As the king's laughter finally began to subside, something remarkable happened. For the first time in millennia, his 6 eyes weren't glowing with malevolent hunger. They were bright with something else entirely, genuine joy. Human, Zarthul said, his voice still tinged with amusement. Your tribute is accepted. But I have a question. How does this explain your species' survival? Sarah's grin was pure mischief. Simple, Your Majesty. Every species in the galaxy that's tried to wipe us out has made the same mistake. They assume that because we're not the strongest, fastest, or smartest, we must be easy to defeat. But they never account for our secret weapon. Which is? We're too stupid to know when we're supposed to be afraid and too stubborn to die quietly. We'll crack jokes while our cities burn, make puns during invasions, and somehow convince our enemies to laugh along with us. It's hard to maintain proper genocidal rage when your target keeps making you snort with laughter. Zarthul considered this wisdom for a long moment, then began chuckling again. Remarkable, absolutely remarkable. Very well, human. Your tribute has earned you something no species has ever received, my protection. Anyone who can make the devourer laugh deserves to keep existing. As Sarah bowed and retreated, she could hear Zarthul already retelling the joke to his advisors, his laughter echoing through corridors that had never known such a sound. Sometimes, she reflected, the mightiest weapon wasn't the biggest gun or the smartest strategy. Sometimes it was just the willingness to be magnificently, courageously ridiculous in the face of the impossible. And sometimes, just sometimes, the universe laughed back.